Now, this next game is very interesting because it shows how a strong player might take action against the classical pawn centre. But it also demonstrates conclusively that fighting against this centre and timing your counter-attack correctly is not at all easy. That's why hypermodern systems such as the modern defence, the Pirc defence, the King's Indian defence, the Grunfeld defence, all of which allow white to create a strong centre before black counter-attacks, they're not easy to play for newcomers to chess or amateur players. Now, this is a game from the Grandmaster level. It's between Grandmaster John Nunn from England and Grandmaster Todorcevic, and it was played in the Sirac Interzonal back in 1987. And it features a hyper-modern defence called the Modern. Black allows white to take the centre. He fianchettos his king-bishop, and his idea is that with well-timed strikes, he's going to try and dismantle this white centre as the game progresses. Now, this is an opening of subtle timing by black, and it's a difficult opening for the amateur to play. Ceding the centre to a really strong opponent is always going to make life difficult because, well, now it's just a question of how white wants to consolidate the immediate opening gains. Most strong players would prefer to be white in this position. That's not to say black's position is at all bad. It's not. It's just difficult to play. And Nunn decides to play h3, which is the first sign that he wants to try and consolidate his centre before moving on to attack. The point of h3 is to take away the g4 square from black. Black often has a problem in this position with his queenside pieces, getting his queenside pieces out. And one way he can do this is to first develop the bishop to g4, and then the knight can come out to c6, creating pressure against d4. So Nunn stops bishop g4 for good, and at the cost of a small pawn move on the side, just says to black, you can't really dent my centre at this point, so I'm just going to take time out to consolidate with bishop e3 thereafter. And note, when the bishop comes to e3, it cannot be hassled by knight g4, which again will be a candidate move for black. Let's say if white had played bishop e3 now, castles, and then bishop e2, black could certainly consider knight g4 at every moment. So bishop e3, black's got to find another way, and Todorcevic decides to play c6. There's nothing really that black can do which is particularly active at this moment. So c6 possibly prepares b5, and after that black would have the threat of b4, which in turn forces white to look after his pawn on e4. So white decides to stop black's counterplay. Black plays knight bd7. White pushes on with a5. Well, as the game goes on, you could be forgiven for thinking that allowing white to play a5 is not such a good idea in this position. Therefore, should black have played a5 himself? Well, this is an interesting question. My problem with a5 is it does nothing for black's piece development, but then perhaps that doesn't matter so much in this position. What is important is stopping a future white initiative on the queen side. White is going to use his central control to stop black from doing things so that he can mount an initiative on, well, either the king side or the queen side in this position. So after a5, black, I think, correctly responds with e5, but it certainly leads to a position which is quite difficult for him. You'd think that e5 is the right move. Countering in the centre, white's made a poor move on the flank. Classical chess theory states that we should react in the centre. But look what happens. Nunn takes. Black recaptures. I mean, he could take with a knight, I suppose. But then you'd have a weak pawn on a half-open file, which white could aim at. So black recaptures with the pawn. And now Nunn plays a powerful move. Queen to d6. Well, the queen's not going to stay there forever, but it really does interfere with black's development. The first point is that white may or may not be threatening the pawn on e5. It's just something for black to worry about. Secondly, white is thinking about following up by just putting his bishop on c4, by maybe castling and then going rook fd1 with a real bind. White is tying black down, and it's in this type of position we really begin to feel for black that it's difficult to get those queenside pieces out. That is going to really matter as this middle game progresses. But for the time being, that queen is a real bone in black's throat. So he's going to try and get rid of it, maybe by playing bishop to f8. So Nunn continues with this active, aggressive development. I would say his central control is very good. He is increasing his control of the position with bishop c4. And Todorcevic is so afraid about this now looming threat to f7. I mean, I think knight g5 is a pretty direct threat, that he hastens to exchange the queens with queen to e7. Could he have improved? Well, he could play bishop f8. I mean, that's one of the ideas of playing rook e8 in the first place. White would probably put his queen back on d3. And now I think black has to play a move like h6 in this position to try and hold white at bay. White would castle. Black maybe plays queen c7. Yeah, this looks like the best way to try and defend the position for black. But even here, Nunn thinks that white is better after knight a4, noting that if black takes on a5, we have the tactical shot, knight b6. Okay, black can sacrifice his queen, something like this, but not everybody wants to do that at this early stage of the game. So maybe Todorcevic felt, when he looked at this line, and he was certainly capable of seeing that line very easily in his mind's eye, I'm just going to try and get the queens off. At that time, in 1987, Nunn was one of the best tacticians in the world. So he probably felt, okay, get the queens off, at least I'm not going to be mated anymore. But of course, he runs into a pretty prospectless position here after white simply exchanged the queens and castles. h6. Well, that pays some respect to white's idea of knight g5. White also has simple ideas of putting his rook on d1 and saying to black, well, how are you going to get your pieces out? It's really noticeable here that that bishop on e3 is having a really strong effect on the knight on d7. Black would love to play knight c5 here and somehow ungum his position, but he can't. So h6. Rook fd1 was played, and now black brought his rook back to e8. Oops, excuse me. Okay, b4. Well, when you've got control of the position to this extent, you can think about a wide choice of plans. And it's clear that white's plan now is to completely cramp black out of the game. The pawn on b4 stops any black piece from coming to c5. When Todorcevic played bishop f8, Nunn played rook db1. So he's thinking about maybe b5 here and opening up the queen side. With black passive, white can choose. White doesn't need to play b5, but it looks like that is what white is leading up to do. So black stops him. Now comes knight d2. When black played a6, he created new weaknesses. There's a big juicy square on b6 for white to occupy at the right moment. And that's exactly what Nunn does after playing his knight to a4. Black tries to create some counterplay by putting his knight in on f4. White carefully drops his bishop back. Not a defensive move. It makes room for the move knight c4, which increases white's control of b6. So black drops his knight back into the centre. And now another excellent move by white, c3. This pawn chain, c3, b4, a5, completely cuts all of black's minor pieces out of the game. And now black really must await his fate. White is in complete control of the position. It really is horrible in chess to wait against a good opponent for them to reveal what they're going to do, because Nunn hasn't yet revealed exactly what he's going to do. I think he's going to put his knight on c4, and then he's going to choose. He can either go back to the d file and pile up there. He can come into b6. He can really have an enormous amount of fun at black's disposal. This is the worst kind of position to play for black. So Todorcevic loses it really. He loses his position with c5, and this gives Nunn a chance to show his tactical strength. As after b5, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, rook takes b5, Nunn piles in with knight b6. Typical game which really has put a lot of people playing the Perk defence, because you often get into this type of mess where, you know, black is comically pinned. His knight is pinned against the rook. His bishop has never seen the light of day. Whether he takes on a1, which is forced, and takes on b6, it's no matter. White can take on e8. And now we reach a position where white is basically the exchange up. And it really does matter here, as white's rook can penetrate on either the a file or the b file. So this is a losing position. Black wriggles around, trying to escape. Rook b1 hits the knight, so black takes on e8. White takes on b6. Nunn's got it all under control. So knight ba8, another horrible move to have to play. White moves out with his bishop. Black plays f6. It all ends very quickly here because black just loses it. Knight c4. And that move threatens just to win a pawn with knight a5. There's really no defence to that move. If black plays b6 in a situation like this, we just come back to c4. And black can't defend his pawn. King f7, a miserable move. And now bishop takes h6. Very nice. Nice tactical shot. And black had had enough. You know you're going to lose, so this is why resigns was invented in chess, you know, to stop the suffering. If black takes, we just go check. He moves his king, we chop this off, and that's it. Game over. So a game where black tried to get some counterplay against the classical pawn centre in the opening, but failed because of the passivity of his pieces. Just goes to show these hypermodern defences, they're really not easy to play.